mishap is for the military.
What's a Class A mishap?
It is any accident that results in $2.5 million or more in damage, or if a Department of Defense airplane is lost, or someone loses their life or is permanently disabled in the accident.
Are you
if
saying
any
everybody's
of those
worth $2 million or more?
well, these are all if any one of these happened during an accident, then it's classified as a Class A, which sounds like it's the oh shit level of mishap for military.
Well, we just had another one, and you're watching Steve and Matt on the Risk Control Show, and I just wanted to say hello and welcome to this great episode. This episode goes out to George. George, it was a pleasure meeting you. Know who you are, and I just want to say your facility's super clean. I really liked what you're doing up there. It's great work, and I really appreciate you watching our show each and every episode. It's fantastic. I hope to see you again, and we're going to keep throwing stuff out here for you to learn and also to take and implement. And if you got any questions or comments or feedback, please put it in that section. Love to hear from you. So with that, we're talking about missing stuff. This reminds me of traveling with my ex-wife, my former wife. We would go on these trips.
You lost her too, and you didn't know where to find her, Steve?
I mean, Boston TSA tried to. We went to Virginia. No, not Virginia. Okay. Where did we go? Vermont. We went to Vermont, and we took a little trip up to Canada or whatever, and then she was going to stay with her parents and hang out for another week. I got to the airport, and they're like, "Where's your wife?" I'm like, "Dude, she's a grown woman. She can go wherever she wants." Like, I didn't even... this is an inter-United States flight. Like, what's going on here?
Wow.
I know. It was really strange. Yeah. So they didn't like my answers, but I'm like, where's this coming? Now I'm putting it all together. People go on these trips. They don't come back because someone's been killed and all this kind of stuff. But to the missing piece, my former wife was notorious about leaving her purse or keys or something on the plane, and I would be running back trying to find it. I mean, I got to the point when I would be working, she would call me, "I can't find my thing." I'm like, "What do you want me to do about it? I'm 27 miles away." Like, I don't know. I left at 5 a.m. this morning. So here we are. If you haven't heard, I'll show you a picture of what went missing. So this went missing. This is insane. I just don't understand, dude. This big old plane went missing yesterday.
Lockheed describes this plane as the most survivable and lethal plane in the world.
Yeah, well, it came about in 2008. It's an F35b, which is the Marine version of this plane. It's got ultra stealth capabilities. My father was in the Air Force, and I called him yesterday, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm just sleeping, just waking up from a nap." He's a couple hours ahead of me. This is pretty late last night. I said, "Did you see the plane that went missing?" He's like, "Oh shit, what plane?" I said, "It's an F35b," and he's like, "They're never gonna find that on radar." So he was a mechanic in Vietnam in the Air Force. He worked on all the planes and was one of the mechanics for the first carriers of nuclear weapons, atomic bombs, stuff like that. But yeah, so he worked on all those, and he's got great stories. But as a kid, he would always take us to these airplane museums, and we go to Florida to see NASA, and we go to the rocket fields and all this kind of stuff. And he would always be like, "You see that rocket? It travels at 1,500 miles per hour, blah, blah, blah. You could be home from here in an hour." So yeah, that
Oh,
that we got lucky on this F35b because it
we did.
travels, yeah, it travels 1,228 miles per hour. It was missing for the better part of a day. And I'm laughing because this is just so, what do you call that?
It's unbelievable.
No,
Like I think the first thing
apropos.
that
It's apropos.
apropos what's apropos of it, just of the way things have been.
No, just we're doing all these emergency plans and missing. I I went out to one of the sites the other day, and it was I was visiting all the sites. So at the school district, there's multiple sites. I'm doing all the updates. Matt and I are doing updates of the emergency plans and comprehensive safe school plans. So it's the last school. I didn't tell you this, Matt. It's the last school of the day, right?
Okay.
And I'm sitting in the waiting room of the office for the principal, and then she comes in and she's like all sweaty, hair's all a mess. I'm like, what's
No.
happening? She's like, well, we lost a student and they had run across the street to the park. So I chased after them and I got all the way across the street and I went to use my radio. I went, dead.
No.
So she's out there by herself, and I'm like, well, I guess you're lucky because you're chasing a kid through the park, and you're lucky no one shot you or tackled you,
Right.
right?
Yeah, because you look at an adult chasing a kid,
Through a
what's the
park,
assumption going to? Yeah,
yeah,
through
through
a
a park,
park.
and
You,
it's an
you know,
elementary kid.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
they could be off school. Who knows?
yep, yep, yeah. Jeez, I feel bad for her, especially since she's probably not used to putting in the physical hard charging run
No,
too often at her job.
yeah, she was none too happy.
I'll
Uh,
bet.
but yeah, I say it's apropos because not only are we losing students, recently we lost a prisoner at one of our maximum security facilities.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's like just how, why, where, who, what the hell is going on?
Right. And
So
the thing that stands out to me, Steve, is that obviously we all lose things and things get missing all the time. This is just a fact of life. But the three specific incidents you're talking about, the F-35B is controlled by the DoD and the Marine Corps Air Force Base with all the importance that it is to maintain control and knowledge of the location of where that is. Then you have a principal with a kid. How important is it to know where a kid is, right? And then you have the a prisoner in a prison who absolutely, for the public good, needs to not be out there in public. So it's not just that they're missing; it's that they're missing in situations where the individuals or organizations responsible for them should be extra vigilant about not allowing them to go missing.
yeah,
Like if I misplaced my wallet, I misplaced my wallet.
yes,
Doesn't hurt anybody except me in the moment. But
yeah,
these other things are very serious.
right. Is extra vigilant like saying very unique?
Yeah, I guess the extra was
I
unnecessary,
mean,
but
but I guess we have to say that now because vigilance is not enough.
it's not enough. Yeah.
So, all kidding aside, couple things. I want to give a shout out to my daughter, who's off at college, and she joined the Rose Bowl parade float for Cal Poly, and I'm feeling kind of proud as a dad because, and I know this is a total
Good.
sideshow, but folks, if you meet my daughter, I think you'd be impressed. She's a black belt in karate, advanced student in Muay Thai and Krav, 6-year wrestler, taught at UFC, trains with some of the Olympic gold medalists, like all that kind of stuff. And she's a very girly girl, but she's also got the Renaissance style. Um, where she can do a lot of different things and
Right.
protect herself. And here she is cutting some pipe. They put her on the welding team for the floats. And, I think all of our safety background and hanging out with Matt and I and going camping and fishing and, all these things. I mean, we talk about a lot of these qualities that are manly, are female, are womanly, and you can do and have it all and still maintain, whatever other side you have. Matt and I get dressed up and we go do dirty
Yep.
work and we do girly work, and my daughter does the same. But I'm really proud of her. She's out there taking charge, trying things, and I think really the reason I say this and show this picture is simply because as a risk manager, and this is one of our campfire major themes, is that you have to be able to have a very broad and diverse background so that you understand many things that your staff or employees that you're in charge of keeping safe have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? And
Right.
so by just getting out there and experiencing those things, it gives you a better understanding of risk management overall. And uh, so shout out to her. I'm very happy. Great programs at Cal Poly. If your kids are thinking about going there, it's fantastic. So I told Matt, hey, beyond all the craziness here with the FAA, we just did the whole thing, Matt, on airlines and control systems and training and
Yep.
automated cars and flying cars. And here we are with an F-35 that goes missing. And I get the whole stealth capability components. Like you can't put tracking mechanisms on this.
Yeah, because they could be compromised, and if that falls into the hands of the enemy,
Right,
then the stealth won't matter anymore
right,
because they'll
exactly.
be able. Hey, we've got the code. We know where it is.
Yeah, we
So I
we
get
we
that.
track this beacon, we track this, um, relay transponder, whatever it may be. But
Right.
your pilots have that, and the concept there is we haven't heard much about the pilot and what's been going on with him, where
Yep.
he landed. But this thing flies around for however long it flew around and then lands some 80 miles away. It landed in a field. Matt, do you want to fill in the details on that, like exact location and all that kind of stuff?
It was a field up in Williamsburg County, which is kind of it's kind of, I'm not sure if it's right up against the North Carolina border in South Carolina, but it's close to it. It's in the the northeast area of South Carolina. I believe I'm not from that area around, but I've traveled through that area. I believe that portion of South Carolina is pretty rural.
Right,
There isn't a. I know there's no major towns right there or anything, at least not on the South Carolina side. My understanding is, yeah, the pilot encountered a what's been described as a mishap. That was actually came from the Joint Base at Charleston itself. That is the point location for the jet and for uh, basically the military's communication with the public on
right,
this matter. Apparently, the pilot had a mishap, ejected from
right,
the plane. The plane was on autopilot. So, when someone's like, so he set it on autopilot and ejected, or was it on autopilot? Maybe they're doing a test. We don't know what they're doing. But yes, apparently it's, but this by car. Apparently, this is about 2 hours north of both the base where it flies out of and also where the pilot ejected. So the plane was going for a good bit,
Right.
and I would imagine with any plane on an autopilot, they probably have flight plans that they can do. Like it doesn't necessarily fly in a straight line. You can actually probably program that plane to fly. Who knows if it was going in a circle or
Yeah, I don't
because
know. I
obviously,
mean,
yeah,
I'd like to know more about it. I got to call my dad
yeah.
back and ask him about some of this stuff. You
The
know,
pilot is alive and
yeah.
safe. The military said that he was taken to a hospital. I believe I'm saying he because I think that's what it said. I'm not sure if they actually confirmed the gender of the pilot.
Well, it's funny
But
because they had another pilot on, and they Trey asked him, "Well, what's it like to eject?" And he's like, "Well, I haven't done it myself, but I have had a few buddies." And he said it's pretty damn traumatic. You know, you got a rocket thruster shooting you out of this jet, and then you're hitting 30 knots of wind on top of it. You know, so it's not as easy as it looks in the movies, I think, is the issue. You know, there's
right,
a lot of thrust in there and stuff like that. So that being said, but like you said, on these flight plans, if it's on autopilot and where it's going and what has been programmed, my question is, the pilot did say that, not the pilot that ejected, but the other pilot said that when you eject, the plane seems to slow down, you
Mhm.
know, and that kind of stuff. But that still doesn't answer a lot of questions as to, you know, like, is it like a jet ski where it starts to circle? But what do
Right,
you do with
right.
it anyway? You know, that's
Hmm.
really the question. So
Yeah,
that being said, I really don't care too much about this plane. Um, beyond, I mean, I do,
yeah. We
but
care
not.
about the plane. It's the response that
Yeah, I
you're.
think
Yeah,
more for this podcast. I want to highlight, you know, guys, there's so much news on the plane. Go look it up. But you know,
yeah.
the real issue for me, and what I really want to dig in here today, Matt, is emergency response plans. You know,
Yes.
and again, this goes back to, you know, how do you lose a student, right? How do you lose a student? How do you lose
Yeah.
a truck in your fleet? And that
Right.
happens all the time. And then,
Yes.
you know, we're doing some plans for some jails and things like this who somehow have been kind of not included or not updated for a very long time. So how do you
Mm,
lose a prisoner? You know, and I will
right.
tell you, it comes down to what Matt said: vigilance, vigilance,
Yeah.
extra vigilance, like extra virgin
Yeah.
olive oil. You need more of it. Uh, it's so virgin, it's really extra virgin, but I don't know what that means either. I got to look that up too. Anyway, the whole point here is, you know, it comes down to vigilance. It comes down to um being sloppy, not
Yeah.
updating plans, not paying attention, complacency. We hear that
It's
all
the
the
word that
time.
I.
Yeah, I
Yep.
was thinking about it there.
Yeah.
Complacency. So I'll tell you, it's unreal to me. Like I was telling Matt behind the scenes, I don't want to say too much about this, but we were doing a plan for detention facility,
Hmm.
and some of the complacency that went on there, you know, about weekly services that arrive for, you know, required, needed, everyday type of services, and the
Right.
complacency there, and the complacency of where things are placed and put. And these all lead to things being lost, think people getting hurt. And so when I talk about this as the emergency plan, when Matt and I come out and look at your facility and we start raising questions, a lot of times we get the chuckles and the laughs and
Oh, yeah. All the time. Oh yeah, that's been like that for years. Or oh, that's just the way we've been doing it.
right.
We haven't had any issues.
Mm-hmm. Or that'll never happen. Or what, am I supposed to worry about aliens coming down?
Right. Right.
You know what's funny about the aliens, Matt?
Yeah.
I I have that little road bell because I ride Harleys and stuff. I have that little road
Right.
bell. I have one on my Harley. Supposed to keep the road gremlins away. And I know you could say, what's this guy? He's a weirdo. I had an
Right.
extra one. I put it on my truck. And so I pulled up, and what this guy was vigilant. He saw that I parked in his parking lot, and then he analyzed the car, and he said to me, he goes, "You part of that UFO club?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You got a bell on your truck." And I said, "No."
No.
And he said, "Yeah, they put those bells on the bottom of their truck, on the bottom of their cars to help measure vibration and things like this from outside sources." I'm like, "Okay, that's fascinating." And he went on to, he's very into these UFOs and the History Channel and all this, but he went on to
Right.
say, "I think the government's going to be releasing these UFO documents like little by little, by little, so that
Right.
we are desensitized to when they actually say, yeah, there's aliens out there." You know, so when people say, "Oh, am I supposed to worry about the aliens?" Well, maybe, I don't know now, but but here we have an example, a very serious example
Yeah.
of several things inside the emergency plan. And one of them is aircraft crashes. And
Okay.
so many times, Matt, clients will tell us, "Well, we're not near an airport, or we're not in the flight path of an airplane." You don't know if you're in the flight path of an airplane because we are running reconnaissance and military operations above our airspace in stealth mode all the time.
Yep.
And just like we had with this F-35, if the pilot ejects and this plane's going to have to come down, I mean, I don't know how else you bring it down,
Yeah.
but the plane's got to come down. And we are so fortunate that this didn't hit hospital, school, government building.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine if this would have flown into another 9/11 financial center tower, a big
Oh yeah.
major city? We would have been 9/11 all over again.
Yeah. And at 1,200 miles range, it could nearly reach New York City. I think the distance there,
No, yeah.
the whole entire eastern United States was reachable from
Well, that's just
the
in an
location
hour.
of.
That's just in an
Yeah.
hour. I mean, who knows how much fuel was on this thing?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the point of it is that you have to prepare for these unknown emergency events. And the really sad thing is they finally communicated with the public, but only to ask for help in locating the debris field or the plane itself if it was still up in the sky. And they never once said to anybody, "Hey, here's the approximate flight plan. Hey,
Right.
here's where we lost this thing," just to give
Yeah.
warning, like, "Hey, kids in the school, lock down, take cover, bomb shelter," all these types of things. So we got really lucky. And in
Yeah.
another sense, we just escalated our potential for nuclear attack and war and all kinds of things from an outside enemy who's watching our inability to do certain things.
Yeah, exactly. They have a plane that has similar capabilities that shows us that, they'll be able to fly into our airspace and we won't be able to locate it.
Right?
So yeah, and yeah. No, it's just amazing to me that yeah, they'll go to the public. And you just know, and I know I joked around about this off air. Um maybe I watched too many movies, but my impression of the military is when something goes wrong, their rule number one is don't tell anybody. and their rule number two is refer to rule number one,
Right.
don't tell anybody. So for them to get to the
But
point where
wait,
they
rule
actually
3 is if you do tell them, then you got to kill them.
now that is getting a little too movie-ish, but
Yeah.
the first ones I entirely believe are true. So for them to actually reach the point where they said, okay, we actually have to tell the public and ask for the public's help. You knew that was a big bridge for them to cross to actually make that decision. And I think that's what concerns me. I'm not concerned that they made that decision. I'm concerned that they were brought to the point that they needed to make that decision.
Yeah.
That they didn't have, like you said, an emergency response plan or some kind of ability to like I don't think they planned for this eventuality for an unmanned plane.
Well,
Just normally,
yeah, I mean, I think they should have hit it right away.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we lost this thing, and everybody in this area heading in this direction needs to be on the lookout. And I think that's where the transparency comes in. And this is the same thing as the Maui fires. It's unreal to me. What are you doing? You're trying to cover your own butt. You're trying to look good. And in the meantime, you literally are putting people in harm's way of death and have no care or concern in the world but yourself, right? So, yeah, they have no problem exposing every other secret of the military. But this one, which is out there in plain bird's eye view, no, we're gonna cover it up until we have to admit.
Right.
And so that's a problem. So that being said, what do we need to think about as risk managers in our own emergency plans? I just was going over this whole escape with our detention facility client. And it's like, you know what? Why are we not using GPS shackles? Right? If you got to evacuate, put them on the people. And yeah, it's a burden. It's not good for anybody. But if, God forbid, something goes missing, or something happens that someone goes missing, then at least you can locate them or their whereabouts very quickly and get to it, and you're not in a 2 or 3 week manhunt. And you have to admit when you failed, and that's the big thing. And so when we do our emergency plans, when Matt and I come out, we're asking questions because we continue to encounter certain circumstances, procedures, and events that have occurred with our clients that aren't discussed in public because it is a reputational risk to do. But the reality is we're asking these for a very pertinent purpose, and that is to make sure that you've thought of these things and that you have all of these scenarios covered. You have to practice, you have to place stress on each piece of your emergency plan, and you have to test it. And you have to have ways to track inventory and everything else. And sometimes, again, back to the social media, and electronics and everything else, you can't always rely on that technology. So, think about it. You can easily, if you can lose an F-35, you can lose a set of master keys very easily. I typically, when we do active shooter drills, I typically am able to get into classrooms. I mean, I don't think there's been, I think there's been one school that we weren't able to get into, but
yeah, just about every site we've had one little mishap, whether it was someone willfully handing keys over to you or finding a door just unlocked,
or doors where the locking mechanism, like the lock set, was actually installed in reverse. So instead of locking out, it locked in, and we were able to open it from the wrong side. What else?
With emergency, it's just, we already kind of keyed on it, but it's just be serious about how you approach this. And I know that everybody is going to say, I'm always serious about emergencies, but we're talking about that vigilance, that complacency, having the vigilance, not getting complacent.
Right.
And we, too often, like we'll see again, okay, we have an airplane crash in this particular emergency plan.
Right.
Is that going to happen? Um, and you don't pay much attention to it, or like we do now because of the media focus on it and the increasing number of them that we're seeing. We do see school districts taking active shooters more serious than they
Right.
used to. But even then, someone sits down and looks at the numbers, they might go, no, there's still like only a, 1% of 1% chance that it'll ever happen here or anything like that. But what do we always say, Steve, when we talk about this is, yes, okay, maybe it won't happen. Probably it won't happen. But if it does happen, you will live with that for the rest of your life. The lives that are lost, the mistakes that were made, the risks that were taken, you will live with that for the rest of your life. Your community will live with that for the rest of life with an active shooter or with a massive accident such as an airplane crash.
Yeah. I
So,
still wonder. I want to know what this guy that had the opportunity to sound the alarm in Maui and chose not to. Just think if he would have chose to sound the alarm,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah, or not relied on social media.
Right.
Which was, or it's all, we did sound the alarm. We just did it through social media
Yeah,
instead
well,
of our state of the art siren system.
right. I mean, he's a mass killer in a lot of ways, and people may take that as harsh, but he made a decision that resulted in 90 people being killed. Um,
Yeah. And
so
I'm sure that as a likely a conscientious person, he's probably really struggling right now
yeah,
with that. With the fact that he made that decision, and and this was the result. So
right,
you don't want to be him. You don't want to be a person in authority who makes the wrong decision or doesn't plan properly. That's, I think, it's not just people make wrong decisions all the time, but a lot of it comes back down to how seriously you're taking it, how much planning are you doing for it,
right.
and that's that's what we talk about when we're talking about going to these sites and we ask these questions and we find out, oh yeah, they're not taking this seriously at all. Well, that's when Maui happens. That's when
Right,
F35b random crashes in the middle of nowhere happen.
right. Yeah, and it
So
it just goes back to folks, we can't be relying on all this technology all the way out forever and ever and ever and ever. I mean, it's like the Roomba vacuum. When the battery starts to go low, it will head back to its base. How come this thing's not heading back to a base or heading out to the ocean to crash? You know,
right,
like ejection, boom. Okay, we better have a predefined series of sites that this thing defaults to or fail safes to in order to go. So what is yours? But again, back to the decision as the emergency guy. Yeah, you may make wrong decisions, but you want to make wrong decisions that always end up with people alive. Like, do I make the wrong
yes,
decision to use alarm one or alarm two? Oh, well, both will notify and both will give an alarm, but maybe I didn't do, you know,
right,
whatever. We got to get back. We're just at a place where everybody's complacent. They, they, and I say everybody, not everybody, but a majority of people. And, study after study shows people are checked out of their jobs. They're not engaged. They don't want to do the full work. They don't want to do the detailed work. Hey, look, I hate doing it too. We sit down and we look through plans that are 1,000 pages long, and we got to go through every little detail and every word and everything and make sure that every piece lines up and that it's where it's supposed to be and that this all makes sense. Last thing I want on my hands are people dead because I was too lazy to sit at the chair. If it takes a week or 2 weeks to do it, you got to do it. And yeah, I get antsy and I got to get up 10 times a day and, you know, have something to eat and have coffee and jump back down and fight through it all. But you got to do
Right.
it. Um,
Yeah.
and you got to walk your sites and you got to look at stuff and you got to be the bad guy. You know, it's I think this was so funny with what's the governor's name out there that had the stroke? Um,
Uh,
always,
Was that Pennsylvania's?
yeah, wears the hoodie all the time and everything.
Oh, Fetterman, John Fetterman.
John Fetterman. You know,
Yeah.
now they passed a thing on the Senate, or not on the floor of Pennsylvania, where he can come in a hoodie and shorts. Everybody else, you know, and it just goes like, you're that lazy that you can't put on a suit for a meeting.
Right.
This is what we've come to. Like, it's bad enough that we're doing that when you go out to theater and all these other things. Now you're doing it as you're the governor of the state.
I think he's actually a senator, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
yeah, I know what you're talking
I'm
about.
sorry, senator.
Yeah.
But he
But
was the
yes.
governor, right?
Yeah. I think he was the not the governor, but the lieutenant governor or whatever they call the second in charge governor for
Let me
Pennsylvania.
see. Junior U.S. Senator since 23, a member of the Democratic Party. Lieutenant governor, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you know, you're not a movie star. I mean, ridiculous.
I've seen him more in hoodies and shorts than I've seen him in suits. Actually,
No, I know.
now honestly, even since he's become a senator.
Yeah. Senate ditches dress code as Fetterman and others choose casual clothes. Okay, you know, but it just goes to show that we're just trying to be lazy all the time, and there's certain professions and certain programs that you can't be.
Can't
I sit
afford to
there and
do
I
it.
say that as I'm on the podcast in a t-shirt. But
I've
trust
got
me,
a collared shirt on.
yeah, but trust me, when I go to board meetings, I'm dressed in a suit.
He is.
When I
He is.
when
He's
I when I got
yeah.
to go to other meetings, I'm dressed up, you know.
Mhm.
When I do
Yep.
training,
Yep.
I'm dressed up. So, you know,
Yep.
the thing is, you got to do it. And if you
Yeah.
want people to take you seriously, you got to do it. But that's our day and age. I could go on forever on it. But the F-35, again, illustrates, get it together, take your emergency plan seriously, and don't underestimate the probabilities and chances of odd things happening and you being caught in the middle of it. So
Yep.
that being said, don't forget to follow us, subscribe there. Any of our new clients, if you're looking for a new vendor, we're it, 20% off.
Yep.
And then we also have all of our social media. Matt, as you can see, I put on the new X, not just Twitter, the old bird.
Fantastic.
We are there. Hey, and by the way, we're looking for ambassadors for our Dollar Training Club. Don't forget to check that out. We have a bunch of courses there. We're always adding. We just added 3 or 4 new courses.
Yep.
We actually added a CSSP for administrators course, so that's really cool. Don't forget to check
Yep.
us out on our website, Udemy, all those places. We're everywhere and anywhere that you need us to be. So that being said, we'll see you on the next episode of the Risk Control Show.
Have a good day, guys.